Mr. Milan Stipic was born in Windsor on March 2, 1960. Milan's father, Mihailo, was born in a village called Lolovo in Bosnia, and his mother, Angelka, was born in Lika, Serbia. His parents left Yugoslavia in 1945 and arrived Canada in 1951. Mr. Milan Stipic has a sister, Datsanka, who is practicing medicine in Baltimore, United States. Milan learned to read, write, and speak Serbian language, but Cyrillic is not easy for him. Mr. Stipic, tell us why your parents decided to make Canada their home.
I believe it was a matter of other family members being here already. They traveled after Yugoslavia. They were, I think, 2 years in Italy, 2 years in Germany, and then ended up in England. At that time, one of my uncles had already successfully immigrated to Canada, and he was allowed to sponsor relatives, and so slowly, one by one, they brought everybody over.
Were they in Windsor?
Yes, my uncle Paul, he was up north, I believe, and he was working in the mines. But in the course of things, his brother was the next to come over, and I believe he settled in Windsor. And then when he brought my other uncles over, they made Windsor their home, so that when it came my parents' turn, Windsor was a natural choice.
Tell us about your childhood, something memorable.
Childhood, basically I was born, raised, educated in Windsor. Did my public school education here, my high school, university, law school as well. I did take a year off and travel around Canada when I was about 17, 18 years old. I was in Quebec and British Columbia for a while. Memories are just classic childhood memories of having good times at school, studying, and your friends and neighbors and family as well.
Tell us about your education, where you graduated and when, and the school, how the school life.
All right. Starting with high school, or public school, okay. Public school, just quickly, King Edward. That's here in Windsor, out in Walkerville. I started high school, I believe, in 1974, and that was at Walkerville Secondary School, also in Walkerville. I did my 5 years, at that time it was grade 13, it's changed now, but I did that 5 years, and by going through summer school I completed it in 4 years, so that I graduated in 1977 from Walkerville. September 77, I started University of Windsor. At that time I took history, split between history and political science. Or sorry, my first year in university was actually in business. And it was kind of an unsuccessful year because I guess I was just first year in university. I was having a lot of fun and not devoting enough time to education. So as a result, my marks coming out of the first year were not all that great. And as a result of some coercing by my sister, she suggested that I take a government program called Katimovic, where I had an opportunity to travel around Canada for 9 months and work for various nonprofit organizations. I spent 3 months in Quebec, 3 months in British Columbia, and then 3 in Northern Ontario, in Orillia. And completed that, and I came back. I spent some time working Chryslers and Kelsey Hayes. Decided that I didn't want to work there for the rest of my life, so that, with the urgings of another friend who was a lawyer, I made my mind up to go back to university, go back into a political science and history undergraduate. And from that point on, I spent 2 years doing that, upgrading my marks, and applied for law school and got accepted. So I started law school in 1981 and graduated from there in 1984. And as far as education goes, after law school, we have to do a year of articling, which I did with a local firm, Ryan Curry Cohen in Houston, as it was then. And that was for years 1984, 85. And when I completed that, the last stage of legal education is to go to the bar admissions course in Toronto. And that I intended in 85, 86, and I was so-called called to the bar in April of 1986. As far as education, I did take some when I was in law school. I went back into summer school and intersession, continued to take business courses. I suppose I have some deep-rooted desire to finish an MBA, so I was taking qualifying courses at that time. Maybe I'll go back and do it at some point in the future on a part-time basis.
Let us know you received any honors and awards in schools and university.
Okay, in high school I was a member of the Honor Society. To do that you had to be involved in numerous extracurricular activities. You got points for that, and you got points for participating in intramural sports, and also I think based on your academics. Carrying on in undergraduate level of, I think the next thing was just basically in law school I received the Dean Ianni Award, which is again, it's given to a senior law student based on their involvement in general within the law school and within the community as a whole, not strictly on academic basis, but somebody who participates within the community. And right off the bat I can't remember any other ones, but...
Okay, if not law, what would you have chosen?
What would I have chosen? Well, I suppose it would have been engineering, law, or medicine. It was one of the three I had to...
Why?
Oh, just with our parents there's a great deal of emphasis on education and the professions. And so I have an older sister who's 6 years my senior, and she had completed medicine. And she's now, she finished pediatrics and psychiatry, so she's a pediatrician psychiatrist, so there's a lot of, not overt pressure, but there's a great urging to complete an education, especially in one of the professions. So originally I suppose I started with engineering, and I lost an interest in the mathematical end of things, and when I came back to university I was more inclined towards the history, political science, politics in general, and so the most conducive career was law. Obviously I didn't have the biology or chemistry background in order to do medicine.
Do you still keep up with the Serbian culture and heritage?
Oh, I try my best. We have different types of customs, obviously, and it varies from which region your parents come from. And the high holidays, Easter and Serbian Christmas, and the patron saints, they are Slava, obviously we keep to those as much as possible. And each of those occasions has its own unique little customs that we try to follow. My father tried his best to teach me them, and I hope I'll be able to persevere in the future and keep them going and pass them on to my kids.
Did you ever visit Serbia, and how did you like it?
Okay, 3 visits to Yugoslavia that I remember. I went a 4th time when I was about 3 years old, and I have only vague memories. I went in 77, 85, and 86 was the last time that I went back. I loved each trip back. It was a good opportunity because I got a chance to see some, not just Yugoslavia, but I go through other parts of Europe as well, but usually spent the vast majority of my time in Yugoslavia. And it'd be split up between my relatives who were in, a good chunk of my dad's family's in Belgrade, and some of his family remains in the family, or his family's homelands of Bosna, in a village called Lohovo, and now in Bihać as well. My mom's family is about 65 kilometers away from there in Serb, in a region we call Lika. And try to make a route so I'd cover everybody. I'd get a chance to see both sides of the family and stay with them, and at the same time I'd try to combine it with a visit to the Adriatic coast because it's nice and relaxing. It's a beach and hotels. It's a nice part of the vacation. I'd usually go with some of my cousins out there for a vacation for a week to 2 out of the time that I was there. So it's nice seeing your family because obviously you hear a lot about them from your parents, but you don't have an opportunity to see them every day. And I found when I went over there, I met my cousins who are my age, it just, like, there's an instant bonding, I guess, a blood relationship or something, so that we all got along very well and enjoyed each other's company. And in the time periods that I was there, we did a lot together, and we still continue every once in a while to call, right? Sometimes they'll come here and visit. I hope to go back there eventually and take my wife and show her the country and my family.
What are your contribution to Serbian community in Windsor?
In Windsor, prior to starting practicing law, I suppose I was more involved in a little bit of a time restraint now, especially with family. Predominantly I was involved in Serbian language classes, in the Sunday school program, on and off with the dance group. I did spend a good number of years with the church choir. I enjoyed that both for the church service and performing cultural songs where you got an opportunity to travel. And that was probably a fun part of it. It was an opportunity to meet other Serbs in other parts of Canada and the United States, because you'd go there for a concert or they'd come here. Within the community itself now, basically since I'm a lawyer, I do some things on a volunteer basis and some things also as a hired lawyer for the community, depending on the nature of the work, so I still have an ongoing involvement there. Big chunk of time, I suppose, was spent when we were building the Serbian Community Center. We had a building committee of which I was a part of, and I guess my responsibility was in the area of obtaining government financing and government funding for it, which we're successful at. And subsequent to it being built, we had a management committee established, which takes care of the ongoing responsibilities of overseeing what the manager actually does at the community center. I'm still on there. Quasi-member, quasi-legal advisor, depending on what they need at the time.
What about the Canadian community?
Oh, Canadian community, I, again, had considerable involvement. I guess going back to university, I was involved in student politics. I sat as a senator of the University Senate for a year. I was a Minister of External Affairs on the Student Administrative Council for a year. I sat as the chairman of the Student Administrative Council for a year as well. I was involved with the committee that established the Social Science Society at the University of Windsor. It was like the largest faculty, yet it had no society at the time, so a bunch of us got together and thought we should do this. So we ran a referendum and got the funding from other social science students. Subsequent to that, or at the same time actually, I was involved in Big Brothers for a good period of time. I started when I was 21 with my little brother, so that's about 11 years now. And shortly after becoming involved with him, I also became involved with the board of directors of Big Brothers. And I spent about 7 or 8 years on the board. I think I took a year off in it, somewhere in the course of it, and then once I started practicing now, I had to pull back from that. Here in practice, or let's say today, I suppose my biggest involvement now is with the Essex Law Association. This is my second year as a director of the Essex Law Association. I sit as a chairman of a couple of subcommittees of that, which take up some time. Can't think of anything else right now, but
What would you be doing 10 years from now? Would you like to change anything about your life?
Oh, I'd like to still practice law. I'd like to cut it down to 40 hours a week and play more golf. But no, I enjoy the practice. It's exciting in the sense that you're never doing the same thing day in and day out. Each day is different. I have a general practice so that I get to dip into different areas of the law. Again, I'm not just doing one form of thing day in and day out. I find the variety is a challenge, because you always have to, if you get into a new area, you always have to brush yourself up on it so that there's a learning aspect to it, and then obviously doing the work itself. So that the practice is agreeable. Again, the time restrictions are kind of tough sometimes, because it does soak up a lot of time, a lot of energy, because even when you're at home, you're thinking about the next trial you're doing the next day, or the documents that you have to produce and within time limits and things like that. So it's kind of obsessive as a profession as a whole, but at the same time, that those same elements are what makes it exciting. So you can complain, but you keep doing it.
What are your hobbies and interests?
Oh, geez. Golf is probably, let's say, my biggest love. Outside of my wife and my child, of course, they come first, but when I get a chance, I'll clear a day, and I try to get out during the summertime and go golfing at least maybe once every 2 weeks on an average, sometimes a little bit more. And I'll participate in tournaments and things like that. But your opportunity to do a lot of things is restricted. You have your work, again, the families. You have to spend time with your child. I want to make sure I don't miss her growing up, so I try to spend as much time as I can with her at the present.
Tell us about your family, when and how you met your wife, and when did you get married?
Okay. We were married August 13th of 1989. How did we meet? We met about 2 years before that. My wife was working as a waitress in a restaurant that belongs to a friend of mine. And literally we ran into each other because she was coming out from behind the counter and I was going in to get in to use a telephone, and it's a very narrow little point where we literally collided. And I guess it was kind of love at first sight. We just started going out after that and eventually got married. We now have a little baby girl, Julie. Julie was born December 18th of last year, 1991. So she's just past 5 months old now. And sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Mr. Milan Stipic has done a lot of community services, including a program called Young Leaders of Tomorrow, run by the United Way. Presently, Mr. Stipic is the president of Essex Law Association for a second term. Part of that, he chairs 2 committees, one being the real estate and the other continuing legal education. Milan Stipic likes to continue practicing law and to have more children and enjoy his family life. He is married to Leslie Mary Liebert, and his daughter Julie Sophia was born on December 18, 1991.